I'm Eugene. You're at Lunchtime Live, sorry, with Life and Law. And as you know, if you're frequent here, we're talking about life and law as it impacts you. I am an attorney. I'm also a substance abuse and mental health counselor. I've been a full-time school teacher at times, so I can talk authoritatively, as they say, on a number of topics. And if you look at my page, you'll see a variety of things that I deal with. You can ask me anything, but I want the focus to be, if you can, on landlord-tenant responsibility, particularly if you have a what we would consider to be a lousy landlord. A lot of people don't understand. There's a lot of things landlords have to do for you. If you give them money, you have a written contract, which is your lease, but you also have an unwritten contract. A covenant, as they say, things that landlord is supposed to provide for you. And if they don't, then there are certain things that you need to do in order to secure your rights, and to hopefully claw back some of that upfront money, the security deposit, the evil security deposit that a lot of landlords use and oftentimes abuse and misuse whenever you leave your place. So there's a couple of things that's not in your contract, maybe, or your lease, that doesn't have to be in there. Like, number one, the big thing, a landlord has an obligation, a duty to provide you, once you pay them money, to provide you with a safe, inhabitable place. That means the water should work, the electricity should work. The environment should be overall safe, not just inside, but outside. There should be proper lighting. There should be some security measures. Landlords have been sued for not keeping things like windows in good shape, door locks in good shape, lighting around the premises. They've been sued for things like that. I have personally sued a couple of landlords because they failed to keep the outside of their apartments in good condition. And when people slip and fall on steps, fall through railings, fall through floors, things of that nature, then it's time that you might have a case. So, because you're paying them money. You're paying them money, and they should do what they're supposed to do. Now, tenants also have responsibilities. Let's face it, this is not just a one-sided show. You have a duty to keep your place clean and inhabitable. Once you give that landlord money, you got to do that. So you also should have, a lot of tenants don't do this, but you should also have your own insurance to cover your own personal property in case there's a fire or a flood or something like that. Now, in addition to keeping your place clean and tidy, and in addition to the landlord, now all these things are unwritten. They have to do that. That landlord cannot cut off your electricity. They cannot cut off your water. Those are things that they have to provide for you to make that place inhabitable. That's the key word. Your place has to be inhabitable. There has to be some decent source of heat and air conditioning in the summertime. So if those things are subpar, then you have a right to ask that landlord to bring them up to speed. So a lot of things these landlords like to do with regard to your security deposits. They charge these big upfront security deposits, and they make it dang near impossible for you to get that security deposit back in case you need to leave. Now, if that landlord has made that place so bad for you, I don't care if you've signed a lease, if they have made it so bad for you that you have to leave, then there are ways that you can get your security deposit back. So this is the first thing I always tell all people to do whenever they rent or lease a place. First thing you do, you go through, you have a witness with you, and you videotape. Get you a videotape or a camera that has a timestamp on it, and you videotape every room of that place, whether it's a home or an apartment. You videotape every room, and you particularly make note of walls that have holes in them, carpets or floors that have spots or stains. anything that looks unusual, take a particular picture of that and keep it, because you can bet your rear end a lot of landlords, when you leave, will try to make you accountable for that damage. Every time something goes wrong with your place, send a letter, an email. Don't just make a phone call. If you make a phone call and you try to come into court with that kind of documentation, which really isn't documentation at all, you're not going to be able to prove your case. Send a letter every time there's something wrong with your place. I know it. I know it's a pain in your rear end, but send a letter, usually through email, because that way you have a record that you did those things. You know, say, hey, there was a leaky faucet. It's getting on the floor. If you don't fix it, it's going to make it worse. Let's say 6 months go by. They don't fix it. And then you've got a big problem. When you get ready to leave, they're going to try to stick you with that problem and take your security deposit. So if you have sent them letters, you know, and all of that, then you'll be able to take that person to court. You have to usually do it in small claims and get your money back, because they can't do that. They can't take your security deposit. They can't take your security deposit for normal wear and tear things. And they're responsible to keep up those things like sinks, hot water heaters, bathtubs, commodes, shower heads, faucets on sinks. So they're responsible for that. So they'll try to take that security deposit. They'll try to take it that way, and they'll also try to claim that you broke the lease and you left unpaid rent. Now, if you have repeatedly asked them to fix certain things and they have not done that, that is a reason that you can break a lease. You can legally break the lease without any problem. Now, most landlords will threaten to sue you. Well, almost all of them will threaten to sue you, claiming that you have violated the lease. Not many will actually sue you. They scare you with that. And then even if they sue you, they have to prove that their hands are clean too. And most of the time they're not. If you have that documentation showing that they basically evicted you, because that's what it's called. It's called a constructive eviction. It is throwing you out. You know, these TikToks that you see, show me you're a Republican without really telling me you're a Republican. Well, show me you've been evicted without telling me you've been evicted. Now, that is like this. The water's leaking. The air conditioner's not working. The heater's not working. There's a big hole in the floor and mice and rats is coming through it. If you've made those complaints and they're not fixing it, and you have a safety or a health hazard, if there's mold and they haven't fixed it, then when you leave, you basically have been evicted by that landlord because they chose not to fix those things. So that's defensible. You can break any lease in the world if that happens to you. Okay, so those are ways that landlords will take your security deposit. Don't let it happen. Most places have small claims court, and it costs you maybe $150 to get your money back. So that's the way that I would do with that security deposit, because that's a really sneaky way that a lot of landlords have of trying to take your money. Leases are really good if you have a good landlord. Because you have some security that they're just not going to up and make you leave. That gives you some security. If you don't have a lease, then if that landlord gets a hair up the rear end, they can ask you to leave for any reason or no reason. So leases are good, but they're also binding. They're a little more binding and have a little more teeth legally because they are in writing. Most of the time, if it's month to month, you just pay someone money, they give you money, and you don't really have a contract. But again, even though you don't have a contract, even though you don't have a lease, those things that we talked about earlier, keeping the place safe and clean and neat and tidy and secure, inhabitable, the landlord still has to provide those things. So one of the last little topics I'm just briefly talk about with landlord, tenant, and Anna, you can let me know if you think I've forgotten anything, is what a tenant's responsibility is. So we talked about it a little bit. You have a responsibility to keep your place neat and tidy. Most leases, most landlords will tell you, well, the law requires that they have to give you notice before they come and inspect your place. I believe in most places it's at least 24, sometimes it's 48 hours, that they have to give you notice that they're going to spray for bugs, do pest control, check the apartment out. They're allowed to do that because it's their place. They can't go through your stuff. They can't go through your closets. They can't, and you can film them. You can have cameras hanging up in your place if they're coming through. That's legal because it's your place. You temporarily own rights to that place. Whenever you pay rent or a lease, you have rights. You can film them, and if they go through your stuff, then you've got a trespass issue. So they have to give you notice before they come into your place. When you're making this record and when you feel that the landlord has crapped on you and you're not getting the process that you need, or maybe they've evicted you, maybe you think they've evicted you. So let's talk about evictions. That's another key. It's a big one, evictions. Formally, there is a way. Now, we did the constructive eviction already. That's when they turn crap off or they don't repair things. When they make it uninhabitable, then you can leave, right? It's a constructive eviction, but there's also a formal eviction that landlords can do. Now, a lot of times they think just by sticking a note on your door, you're evicted. No, there's a whole process. If a tenant wants to be really stubborn with a landlord, the whole process in most states, now this isn't in every state, but in most states, to evict a tenant can take a long time. So they'll try to evict you. They'll make you think you've been evicted by just tacking a note on your door. Don't fall for that. If you need time, then you're allowed time. Generally, you have to get notice. Then, if you don't leave, then they file a lawsuit against you. And then at that time, you have about 7 days to respond. And then there's a court hearing that will take place. So then after that court hearing, then they give that person a notice of eviction. And then at that point, and most judges are so lenient with this, you can usually weasel enough time out of a judge to make that landlord wait just a little while longer until you get your stuff together. But guys, as a practical matter, and this is what I always tell people, as a practical matter, if you know that either your place is not inhabitable, that guy's trying to get rid of you, or in fact has began the eviction process, if you believe that's happening to you, I always tell people, take control of that situation, own it, and then move on your own terms within reason. That means try to find another place because it's hard and it's a lot of work. But go about the process of leaving on your own terms. Make sure you have the records of when you went in, take pictures when you leave, have records of all your correspondence in case they try to, and they will try to take your security deposit, or they may try to sue you for damage that you didn't cause. So do all those things, take control of that situation, because the last thing you want to have happen to you is a sheriff come knocking on your door and tell you you got to go. Because once you leave, if you've been evicted, everything that's in there is abandoned property. That means that landlord can take it, throw it out on the street, put it in a storage unit and sell it. They can do all kinds of things. Now, again, this information might be a little different wherever you live, but generally speaking, once you've been evicted and you are no longer legally allowed to inhabit a place, the contents inside that place is not yours anymore. And once you've been evicted, if you go back, you have criminal charges that could be filed against you. Breaking and entering, maybe burglary. If you go in there with the intent to steal something, that's burglary. If you go in and something bad happens, the place catches on fire, that could be arson. If you go in there and take something, that could be larceny. So there's all kinds of bad things that can happen once you go back in a place, once you've been told not to go in. Okay. So do those things, guys. It's a tough market out there and people are hurting. During COVID, we had this situation where the president passed this executive order to where you were allowed to stay in a place without paying rent, which I didn't agree with that. But that's the way it is. And so now a lot of people have to pay back that money that they didn't pay in the first place. They either have to pay it back. What?
They have to back pay?
Yeah. Some places have to back pay. Yeah. Yep. Because who's going to pay that landlord?
I mean, that's true, but why even do it for that moment? Like, what makes them think that they can afford it now?
Politics. It's just to get votes. I mean, it wasn't for any really good reason other than just to try to get votes. And a lot of people weren't working. But I'm not sure the answer to that is to make the other person not get any money that they worked for. Like, if you had a rental apartment, right? So I get
that too. But if they didn't have the money then, what makes them think that they will have all that money now?
Right, and that's the problem with those things. Once they're in place, you begin to ask the question, well, if my situation hasn't changed, then why are we changing the situation where I have to pay rent again? I just think it was wrong to do it in the first place. But anyway, it was done. And so now a lot of these people, as they have to try to repay, or even not, maybe they don't have to repay, but they have to start paying again. So what happens? What do? You either have to pay or you got to leave, because a landlord can evict you for non-payment. Not paying your bill is a reason to be evicted. Being behind is a reason to be evicted. Most landlords will give you some slack, but they don't have to. Everyone is bound by the contracts that they sign. So, I always encourage people but when you go looking for a place, get references. Talk to some of the tenants in the building if you get an opportunity. And if you're in a small community, you know who the good landlords are and who the bad ones are. Don't sign up for a bad one because it's going to end badly for you. Don't do it. Interview these landlords like you would someone trying to work for you, because you're giving them money. And so interview them, look at their places, listen to the community. What's their reputation like? So do some of those things when you visit the places. Take a real look around. And then before you throw your money down, make yourself a really informed decision. If you do those things that I've told you in this tiny little episode, you're going to have enough information to kind of get by on in case anything bad happens.
Do senior citizens that have Social Security have more rights than a tenant?
No. Nope. You're all the same. Doesn't matter who pays their bill. They're the same. If you're a senior citizen, a lot of times, not just a senior citizen, but the place should be ADA compliant. The stairs and steps and hallways and things should be well lit. There should be ramps, appropriate ways to get in and out of the place. As you get older, it gets tougher to move up steps. People need to hold on to handrails more often. You might be in a wheelchair. There should be ramps accessible. The doorways should be wider. So a lot of things you look at as you get older. I know my wife and I, when we decided to look for another place, one of our big things was we have to have a downstairs master. Okay, we have to have downstairs. We want downstairs. As we get older, it's harder to climb stairs. I don't want to be climbing the stairs 3 or 4 times a day, so we have to have a downstairs place. So that was a big deal to us. I don't care how many bedrooms it has, but one of them got to be downstairs. I don't care who goes upstairs, but I ain't going upstairs. So that's one of the things you look out for. There's no special rights given to senior citizens. There might be some kind of a fee break, some kind of break on a rent or some kind of discount or something. But other than a right, no, you don't have any special rights. Just cause you're old, you don't have any special rights. Get into a movie for free every now and then. So, whenever life and law collide in your world, and I promise you, if you live long enough, life and law will collide in your world. That means it'll become entangled. When that happens, what do we do, Anna?
Give you a holler.
Give me a holler, because I believe I can help you out. So guys, give me a follow. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. We got some neat stuff. And thank you all for showing up.